Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has once again chosen force over diplomacy. With the fragile ceasefire only weeks old, he's ordered what his office calls immediate powerful strikes on Gaza. This decision comes in the middle of allegations that Hamas violated the ceasefire by firing on Israeli troops near Rafah and by returning the partial remains of Ofir Zafati, a hostage already declared dead and buried twice before. The latest twist illustrates the deep resentment and suspicion that governs interactions between the two sides. Each statement, each gesture is interpreted as provocation. Hamas accuses Israel of fabricating false pretexts to resort to military control. Israel, meanwhile, insists that Hamas is still withholding the bodies of at least 13 hostages, deliberately dragging out the process to secure political concessions. Netanyahu's calculation appears twofold. First, domestic survival. He faces immense political pressure from the far right in his coalition. Ministers such as Itamar Ben-Gvir have demanded that Hamas be eradicated completely, accusing the Prime Minister of weakness. Netanyahu may therefore view a return to military action as a way to reaffirm authority and placate political predators eager to replace him. Second, narrative control. The government continues to argue that Israel must keep the initiative, that any pause allows Hamas to regroup. For Netanyahu, a ceasefire is tolerated only when it can extract a clear return of hostages or bodies, and when that stalls, he reverts to military operations framed as unavoidable justice for the victims of the 7th of October. But there's a darker truth. The destruction of Gaza is almost indescribable. More than 68,000 Palestinians have been killed, according to Gaza's health authorities, with countless others assumed buried under ruins. Every renewed salvo tightens the grip of tragedy on both peoples. Netanyahu's iron hand may satisfy the most hawkish voices in his cabinet, yet strategic clarity remains elusive. What does victory look like? If the aim is to eliminate Hamas entirely, the past 2 years have shown the utter disconnect between ambition and achievable objective. The group's leadership is degraded, but far from gone. Meanwhile, civilians suffer, infrastructure collapses, and international legitimacy erodes. Hamas bears grave responsibility. It initiated this trauma with the massacre of the 7th of October, and it uses civilian areas as shields. It criticizes Israel for obstructing humanitarian searches for bodies while offering limited transparency on its own capabilities to retrieve remains. Its excuses ring hollow to the families waiting for the truth of death renewed daily. Yet, to answer brutality with ever more brutality is to replace justice with retribution and revenge. The more Gaza is pulverized, the further from peace it drifts. The more Netanyahu relies on force to project authority, the more he binds Israel to a cycle without completion, degrading security rather than delivering it. What we observe now is not strategy, it's reflex. When frustrated, strike. When challenged, escalate. When doubted, roar. It's the politics of survival masquerading as national salvation. If this fragile ceasefire finally collapses, history will not care which group violated Clause 18 on page 4. It will note instead that political pride was valued more highly than human life. Israel's opponents will use every bomb as evidence. Every negotiation is pointless. Extremists on both sides will delight in proving themselves indispensable, and nobody from the international community will dare to enter Gaza because of the threat of bombs from Netanyahu. In the end, Netanyahu's iron fist risks gripping nothing but ashes. The moral wound deepens, the hostages' families endure renewed torment, and the prospects for a future governed by law, empathy and security recede into the smoke above Gaza. Real strength now would lie not in new assaults, but in the courage to accept that force alone cannot deliver the future both peoples deserve.